Mr. Rowland, during my time on the bench, I have presided over many murder trials, and they typically involve shootings. And with what seems to be an epidemic of criminal activity now, on a monthly basis, we encounter people accused of murder, people convicted of murder. This is the first time, however, that I've presided over a case where a victim was stabbed 120 times. The last case I participated in, where a victim was stabbed and tortured, resulted in a jury imposing the death penalty, which in this state is defined as murder accompanied by aggravating circumstances. And certainly a kidnapping is an aggravated circumstance. And I hear a lot of mothers tell me what a good child their child is. And quite often I have to unfortunately tell those same mothers and fathers that your child was a good child. But that's when he was a child. And my heart goes out to the Rowland family, as well as the Josephson's family. My heart goes out to someone from the same part of the state that I am from. You know, you participate in sports, and at East Clarendon, I presume you played basketball against C.E. Murray, did you? My high school. So I take no joy whatsoever. When I looked at the map that was shown to the jury, the telephone towers, when the officer or witness testified that there's another tower over here, the map showed that that tower is in King Street, where my chambers are. So this is painful, but not nearly as painful as the suffering by the Josephson family. Is there anything you would like to say?
Your Honor, I know I'm innocent. But I guess what I know and what I think really doesn't matter. I just wish the state would have done more in finding out who the actual person was, instead of being satisfied with detaining me and proving my guilt. I feel like if they would have done further research in certain areas, that's all,
And I've sentenced a number of murderers, many of whom have confessed, and I asked them, tell me about the murder. Tell me about the time you pulled the trigger. And I have yet to have one who could go back there. Everyone, each of them, have blotted the whole thing out of their mind as if it never occurred. And they can't take their mind back there sufficient to tell me. And I imagine they live in torment the rest of their days because they can't. The evidence in this case was, I chose the word an avalanche of evidence, and now I've seen it repeated a few times. I've heard it repeated. But the evidence in this case was so overwhelming. The law enforcement in this case did the best job of investigating a case that I have seen over the past 30 or 40 years. Every law enforcement officer that was available participated apparently in working in this case. And if there were 1,000 roads, each road led to you. There's 1,000 trails, each trail led to you. All of the evidence, every speck of the evidence, not simply beyond a reasonable doubt, but as high a standard as the law requires, all points to your guilt. And I am absolutely satisfied. I can certainly understand a family being in total disbelief that the child that they raised could do such a heinous thing, could commit such a murder. And I have dealt with the heartless, and you fall into that category. A person without any remorse whatsoever. A person who is totally emotionless. And in the law we call it a depraved heart. And it would be absolutely astonishing, amazing to me for the truth to be that you have engaged in this activity all of a sudden. That there are not signs that your family can point to, that your friends can point to, where if some intervention had taken place, this young lady would have been protected. I don't know that. But as much as your mom feels in the bottom of her soul or pit of her stomach about you, I feel that same thing based on my experience and based on my observing you and witnessing the evidence in this case. So I want to thank the jury for your focus on this case. I noticed that you all were totally engaged and tuned. Thank you very much on behalf of the citizens of Richland County and the citizens of the state of South Carolina. And South Carolina is a wonderful state, a lovely place, and people from all over the country, particularly the Northeast, choose South Carolina because of its beauty and charm and people, and Columbia for all of the same reasons, because we live in such a wonderful state, such a diverse state, where there are opportunities for everyone, and certainly opportunities for you. And for you to have attended South Carolina State University, if your parents have given you as much as they gave you, and for you then, your life story to end right here at this point in time. Of course, your life story doesn't end, but this is certainly a stop along the way. It is a tragedy. And whatever tragedy that causes these demons to reside within your soul and spirit, I don't know. Maybe at one point in time, since this is not a death penalty case, they can be exorcised out of you. you know, Mr. Goldberg made his closing argument and talked about, in the end, the consequences that would have had to exist in order for this not to be you. That someone would have had to steal your car, steal your car keys, kidnap Samantha, kill her with your tool, then bury her in your home territory, then miraculously get the car back to you in time for you to go to the ATM in Sumter and here in Columbia. Then turn over your car back to you with all the blood throughout it, all of Samantha's blood except for several teaspoons. And the story goes on and on. The evidence is so substantial in this case, pointing to your guilt. And I emphasize that and re-emphasize it because of the horrific and most brutal nature of this crime. It could not be worse. It's the most severe murder that has occurred that I have been a witness to as far as presiding in court or participating in as a lawyer. And for whomever asked me for leniency, that's not part of my DNA. You know, I have two daughters, one of whom sit in this seat more often than I do, and another of whom live in a city who have to encounter people on a daily basis. And I have sons. I would like to think I know my sons and my daughters very well. Certainly, I would be in disbelief if any of them were to find themselves standing in a spot like you. But even more so, the terror imposed on their child and the pain and grief that you have caused. She was an amazing person, an amazing human being, and the testimony is here. And she obviously put up an amazing fight against you and left a sufficient trail for the jury to see what you did. Now, you're not a dumb person. You're not an unintelligent person. You've been educated, trained, and you have a degree of intelligence. You certainly have the ability to choose a different course. But there's no perfect crime. These days, with forensic evidence, your whole 24 hours was recreated almost minute by minute, mile by mile, digit by digit. That's led you here, and you've now been found guilty. And sentencing in this case is not difficult. The sentence in this case is easy, though painful it may be. The sentence of the court for murder is that you be committed to the State Department of Corrections for life. Any other sentence that can be imposed will be concurrent with life. Since you only have one life, that sentence must be served for the remaining days of your natural life. That's the sentence of the court. If you remove Mr. from the courtroom, Mr. Rowland. Just as a comment regarding Mr. Rowland being able to interact with his family during the trial. First, he was chained. We would never let a person who's incarcerated roam freely. He was chained and guarded by law enforcement. But I believe in the presumption of innocence. And for a person not to be punished prior to conviction. Thank you all very much. Thank you all for a job well done. Thank you for the manner in which all of you have acted in the courtroom. And ladies and gentlemen, you have done your service on jury duty. You may retire. Congratulations on a job well done, Madam Forelady. And all of you, I don't know who did the best job. I know it's always painful, but each of you all performed and did your jobs equally, especially to the law student back there who's given me his 403 already to sign. I'm sure it will be a lesson that you will not duplicate in law school, and an opportunity that Samantha will not have an opportunity, sadly, will not have an opportunity to experience. So thanks to all. Court is adjourned. Drawers, if you'll go this way, please, following the bailiffs.